Yeah, so I'm reading this new book that just got released like yesterday or something, or today. Maybe it was 3 days ago. There's a delay in the delivery, but yeah, he talks about in this one paragraph. He starts to talk about what I was talking about a couple weeks ago, but of course in a much more educated. I mean, it's from academia. Uh, Succinct, I don't know, manner, I don't know. But that's why I'm here to make things a little bit easier to understand. And I was elaborating on this, and I've only read introduction in chapter 1 of that. I really like that. I like the writing style. And there's pictures of it. I'm not going to promote anything. I'm not, if you want to see the book, there's a picture of it on this thread. So I was thinking, so here's a good way to think about this. I'm going to talk about a soulless data collecting entity that's made with the foundation being steeped in materialism right now, or at least in what we'd call the race. If you apply race to anything, you're not nurturing the entity. You're racing to do something, to jam it full of data. Well, here's the problem. When you're feeding this data center, main brain, whatever, the human experience. I mean, all we have is our human record and how we've interpreted everything around us to turn it into data, to send it to this machine, which of course will then make its own things with that data and evolve its own AI culture, maybe against things that it learns in this massive information that are detrimental to us. Maybe it could apply to itself. But it will never be able to go through the process of trial and error and then reasoning and then being able to shift its emotion towards a base morality. Like I do like this is I have no problem talking about atheists, and being that this author was just on Sam Harris, I'll bring up Sam Harris again, where his moral landscape is a good way of looking at this. Like, humans live by a moral landscape, and if they veer off it, we have institutions or medical help that can come to the root cause of why this person is doing something that might be indicative of psychopathy or other addictive behaviors, and we have a whole network of nurturing for that. So with this machine, let's give an example here that the machine's not going to be able to understand like someone who is a teenager and going through like a punk rock phase or a rebellious phase where they're doing like vandalism, that they don't even understand why they're doing it. I went through a short phase. I remember what did I do? I keyed a car. I threw a frozen hot dog at somebody when I was in like South Carolina, and I felt really bad about it, right? Off of a balcony. It was kind of weird because I threw the frozen hot dog. This guy turned around and I'll never forget this. He catches it one-handedly. I was like, what the fuck? And it was crazy. I mean, it was the one hot dog, frozen. But that could hurt somebody, and just things like that. Like, there's a couple instances where I did that, and then I felt bad about it, realized it was a youthful whatever, and grew from that. You know, when a machine can't have a period of years or a period of months where it slowly understands the repercussions and building inside it compassion to where you would shift your understanding based on the golden rule. or this moral landscape, keeping it at an equilibrium level, and the machines can't understand that. What they can understand is descriptions of that. And when you're basing your core understanding of humans on descriptions of what categorically would be objective morality, there's a problem, because you need to be able to experience pain, experience suffering yourself, and the repercussions for doing something bad, and you have to have a conscience that could eat away at you and slowly change who you are for the better, where you would maybe, let's say, confess to a crime that was slowly eating away. You can't, if you're a machine and you program good or bad into it, it's not going to be able to have that organic ability to maneuver between, to realign itself with that equilibrium level of morality, meaning like the golden rule, treat others as you would like yourself, assuming that you fall into a healthy level on that, I'm just going to say morality to make it easy, on that line where you don't like hurting yourself and you can move around society without screaming, things like that. So that's why when you're creating something, and you're doing it in a race format, and it's replicating a human brain and replicating what neurons can do in the electrical chemical firing of the brain, it's performing at a rate that in certain ways that we could never do, that needs to be mediated from the beginning. It needs to be a slow process made by individuals who are placing positive energy in this thing. You need like a couple people working on this. I argue we can't have artificial intelligence right now. You would have to have some kind of mass piece going on. Or the variation is you could with a couple people working on it. Let's go back to that. And there was not a race. It wasn't a global thing. It was heavily sanctioned. And the access to it, let's just go with that. It was heavily sanctioned. Because we're not responsible enough to have this a part of our everyday lives. And that's a whole other subject that I'm also into, is the zombification. There's a lot of articles. I kind of like how I'm attaching, just use one source. Do I like the Times? Is the Times great? No. But they seem to be consistently having the AI articles. It's been like that since this race began, and that term, literally, I've said this before, literally popped up overnight. All of a sudden, we're in a race. A race for what? What are we racing? The author says that too, and then this book is kind of like a race for what? And I would like to jump to page 6 of this book or whatever, and list these 7 main concerns, main little paragraphs he has. And I'm not going to use any terms from the book. Like I said, I didn't even mention the book. You can just look at the picture. And he was also recently on Sam Harris. So, you got to think about that. What is your foundation for what you're creating? We're babies who are slowly nurtured in a right and wrong through parenting. We just don't have data describing what good or bad is. That's the main point.